Dr. Jay Shelley here with the Whiplash Group, and as you know, we always try to work together, our medical doctors, chiropractors, PTs, and attorneys, and I like to find out some tools that better help us leverage our care, our case management, our documentation, our objective findings, and today I've got Jeff Rakes with FileVine, which is an amazing software or CRM type software for your legal firm, for your office in managing PI cases. And after years, decades of doing this stuff, I've noticed that certain attorney firms seem to flow better, communicate better, and just track cases better. And I've noticed most of those offices are using FileVine. So I wanted to get you some exposure today to how powerful FileVine can be for running your law firm and how easy it is to implement or transition from one software to this one. And Jeff, I just want to ask you to just take it away and give us the nuts and bolts of FileVine today.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, for having me on. I appreciate your time and being able to present some of the softwares we've been working on here at FileVine. A lot of other law firms, at least here in Utah and obviously across the country, are familiar with FileVine and know about our CRM capabilities, which are obviously very robust, and that's where we got our start. We've transitioned a lot in the last few years into this AI motion. We started about 3 years ago getting started with AI, and we've obviously developed a lot of tools regarding that. And what we're going to talk about today are actually a lot of newer tools that a lot of people haven't even seen and would be curious to see. So who I think this will apply to is any sort of practicing attorney who deals with large medical records or voluminous records of any sorts to be able to sift through data, extract data, cross-compare, find any sort of inconsistencies within any documents they've uploaded within a case, build out any sort of medical chronology, and manipulate the data in very creative ways to see the data and how you might like to progress the case. And on top of that, we're going to end things off with the agentic side of things to automate the task assignation, the calendaring, deadlines, that sort of thing. So I'm excited to jump in. A lot of this is going to be new, and you'll see some stuff that just barely got rolled out within the last few weeks, which I'm excited to go over. So we'll jump in here. I wanted to start off by mentioning the security side of FileVine. That's typically the first questions we'll get. So FileVine, that's the company that we all know and love. The Lois is our AI that we've associated into FileVine. So every time we refer to Lois, that essentially is just the AI. It stands for Legal Operating Intelligence System. And everything backed by AI within the platform is all this Lois working in the back end. So first thing you need to know about FileVine is we are built in AWS, which is the gold standard when it comes to online security and any sort of remote platform. So you have access to all of your case information and the AI tools anywhere in the world as long as you have internet access. One huge benefit with FileVine and being on AWS is the ability to have unlimited storage capacity. So you can upload as many documents, as voluminous as they might be, into the system and have access to some of these tools with all those sorts of medical records and larger records that you might have. When it comes to uploading any sort of sensitive data, obviously some compliancy badges come into play. So as you can see, we are SOC 2 Type 1, SOC 2 Type 2, and HIPAA compliant, meaning feel free to just put everything into the system, all client-related data, medical records, police reports, deposition transcripts, whatever that might be. Obviously, as you know, with AI, the more context you provide it, the better outputs you will receive. And that's also the case here within FileVine. I think one of the things that we do really well at that sets us apart is you will have access to the AI tools across all of your documents, whether that's 1,000 or 10,000, as opposed to maybe some other systems are limited at 100 documents or a couple hundred documents. So I wanted to start within a case here. As you can see, we're inside of a motor vehicle accident case between Jessica and Michael. The first section that's selected is on this left-hand side. It's called the Documents tab. Pretty self-explanatory. So in order to have access to some of the tools that we'll go over today, all you'll need to do is take your documents wherever you might be storing them, whether in your current CMS or on your computer or your Dropbox. You drag and drop them into FileVine. As soon as they get uploaded into the system here, they'll go through an OCR process and a vectorization process. Essentially, FileVine just memorizing your documents word for word. That way the AI has access to all the information provided. Once we have our documents within the system, we'll have access to a couple of pretty cool tools. So first one I want to cover is this Medcron. You have to have at least one medical record within the case to initiate the Medcron to build out a summarization of those records. However, as soon as you start receiving more records as they come in bit by bit, as soon as you upload them into FileVine, they'll be added into the Medcron automatically. So this is the Medcron, and there's going to be a couple of different sections we'll jump into to view the data in different ways. But the first, section that's selected here is called the case overview. This is going to be a narrative reading of the case, give you some idea and some background on what's going on within the case itself. What's really nice about the Medcron is you do have access to the source documents of where that information is coming from. So if I click on any of these hyperlinks, it'll take me to the exact page and section that is pulling that information from for me to verify that it's correct.
Brilliant.
The next section right here is the patient profile. It's similar in the sense that it's a narrative reading and understanding, but of the patient itself. So obviously we can see some background demographics there, maybe some past medical history, so on and so forth. And then the next tab over is obviously this chronology section. This will be listed by date, but it also gives you access to see the providers and facility. And then the fourth section, which I actually like more in terms of viewing the chronology, is the summary tab. And the reason why I like it more is you can actually group these by provider or by facility. So you have some options there for viewing the data in different formats to be most convenient to you. And then what's really helpful is this filtering section. So we can filter by certain date ranges, by certain providers, facilities, or sources. And then it also gives us a list of topics that we might want to sort by. So, for example, a really common one is to go into injuries. Maybe we're wanting to, filter out by forearm fractures, that sort of thing. We can easily see the data by date here with all those forearm fractures and with the hyperlinked pages right here. There is a word index along the right side over here as well. So we can get more creative and find certain keywords we're wanting to sort by, whether that's a medication or a specific injury. We'll go back to the filtering. And so we can, list out every time that, medication might have been prescribed to the patient or what that might look like.
It's really neat how it extrapolates that for you.
Very helpful. So obviously the goal of this is to say, hey, this is your medical chronology. How would you like to view that data? And then what tools might you have access to quickly manipulate it and view it in different formats? Obviously, the goal of that is to just prompt ideas and really dig into your data without having to go manually through and create your own medical chronology. What's really cool is you will have the option to export this chronology as well. So whether that's a PDF format, Word doc, either the condensed or detailed summaries, you can pick the grouping either by date, provider, facility, and then you have the option to include or exclude those medical records. Usually our clients are sharing this out to maybe an expert or outside counsel. It's completely up to you. What that would essentially look like.
So do I understand right, Jeff? This is extrapolating from the notes that you've scanned into the client's file from all their different medical notes that they've gathered together. Is that correct?
Yeah, all the medical records. So as the attorneys start, getting in those medical records, those could be a few hundred pages or thousands and thousands of pages for a lot of medical history. Yeah. As soon as those records have been OCR'd into the system, they'll be added into the chronology.
Gotcha. And I don't expect too many doctors to be watching this, but if they do, this is why our doctors' notes are so important, because if they didn't document it, it never happened. So if they've got it in here, they can now extrapolate from those doctors' notes or reports or initial reports or final reports or updated interims to build a better case for the patient and client.
Exactly right. Yeah, those doctor notes are very critical and super essential in evaluating the data within a case, obviously. Mm-hmm. So last section here is this bills tab. This one is really handy. I don't necessarily have an example to show within this, but essentially your medical bills will also be tracked in the system to be able to see your adjustments on the medical bills, to categorize them, and then it will also flag any missing records. So if you have a bill within the system that doesn't have an associated record, it'll flag that record and tell you, hey, maybe we should go fetch that, or we can dismiss it if that record doesn't have anything to do with the case. Very nice. And then we'll jump into the exported version of the Medcron, kind of what it looks like. So up here at the top, you'll have your firm logo. And then right below that, we'll have this section here to jump around to the different sections of our Medcron. So for example, we have our patient profile right here with the associated medical records attached. And then we have, our summaries. And I think this is grouped by date with the more simplistic summaries. And then a lot of our clients will go through and annotate these sections and add notes in here as they see fit to be able to share out. Any questions with that, Jay?
Nope, it looks great.
Cool. So the next thing we'll cover is the drafting tool and kind of how it works and what it's capable of. So let me share my screen here. So as soon as you have those documents within the case, you'll be able to jump into what we call FileVine Labs. And this login is specifically, dedicated toward drafting. And a lot of the documents we'll be drafting in here are going to be litigation-related documents, and I'll cover what those would look like. So first and foremost, this is our project hub to see a list of all of our cases that we have within FileVine. We were working in this Jessica case, so we'll actually jump back in here. Click on it. And once we jump into it, we should be able to see drafts that we're currently working on. So we have a couple of examples of demands, response to interrogatories. And if we want to create a new draft, we'll just click on plus new draft up here in the corner. What's really unique about this tool is you can create custom templates for your drafts to be based on. And the way that works is in the back end of FileVine, you'll have a template section where you can upload examples of maybe a demand you've written or response to interrogatories or maybe a motion to compel, whatever that might be. You provide 3 or 4 examples and it will build a template based on your formatting, how your font size is, your font, obviously, and then what's more important is your legal language, how you typically like to draft those. And so once you have your custom templates into the system, you can pick that option to draft from. We also have best practice in-house templates provided here as well. So for example, we have a demand, medical summary, complaint, response, which can be super helpful. We're always adding new ones in here as well as we go on. So a couple of these are actually new from this week. So if we click on demand, for example, we would click on next. We click on next, and then that will pull us into the instruction phase to give the AI some guidance on what direction to take this demand letter. So what's really cool is you can go in and create your own case theory and draft your own. However, you can also generate a case theory based on the case information within there. So this one was automatically generated. It pulled from all the documents within the system and generated this case theory on what direction we are wanting to take this demand letter. We can go ahead and edit sections to focus on something in specific. However, if we're happy with the case theory, we can scroll down here. We have options to change the verbosity from concise, standard, comprehensive, maybe the tonality if we want it to be more professional in this case. And then obviously we can name our draft down here, and then we can give it additional instructions. So if we're really trying to focus in on a specific injury or any sort of findings, we can do that in this section here.
Wow.
You can include exhibits, so you can create sort of a packet, which is also very helpful. If we click on next here, this part is pretty fun. What it's going to do is based on our case theory we've provided it will dig into all of our documents that we've uploaded into FileVine, whether that's a couple or hundreds of documents. It will go through all those documents and extract which documents and citations it's wanting to include in our demand. So now we can see we have quite a few citations here with different data points it's going to be pulling into that demand. We can uncheck certain documents if we don't want them to be included as a citation. Or if we notice a record is not being included, we can go ahead and add those documents in as well.
Wow.
So assuming we're happy with the citations here, we'll go ahead and click on Generate Draft. This will take us to sort of a timeline to give us the progress of that draft, and the time limits on this are 10 to 20 minutes, obviously a lot faster than people are typically writing them right now if they're doing that process manually. Obviously, the goal of this is going to be, take you to get 80% of the way there, 90% of the way there, and then you can kind of work your magic and make edits to it as you see fit. So let me go ahead. I'll show you what it will look like in a drafted version. Let me jump into the right case and then share my screen over here. Awesome. So let's say we drafted one of those demands. What the output might look like if we open one up here is something like this. So we do have AI assistance on the side with this chat box right here. We can go through, read through the drafted demand and see kind of what it was able to pull out and include. Obviously, we'll draft and create these charts for you as well. And then here's the non-economic damages. You can see on the right-hand side, we have citations that actually need review. The AI wasn't confident on pulling it in. So we can go ahead and either approve these citations or even exclude them. And then if we choose to exclude them, we can remove the citations from the document. If we're wanting to work our Bob Ross magic and paint within the canvas here, we can click on Edit. And this will give us a place to be able to make any sort of adjustments to it, whether that's by typing or using AI as well. So if we highlight a certain section, we can actually choose to make this more concise, sharpen, make any sort of changes with those tonalities and those tools. We can also add in any custom sections using our AI. So
nice.
Obviously the power of this tool is pretty much up to the person wielding it, and it can be very useful in getting you 80% and 90% of the way there. So any questions with that, Jay?
It just seems so user-friendly.
It really is. This is why this one has been worked on for a long time. This one's brand new. It just got rolled out a few weeks ago. And the goal of it was to make it as simplistic as possible.
And I see here, and this is an important point to make, your AI that you're using is helping to just extrapolate data that you already have. There are concerns with AI and writing demand letters and stuff where ChatGPT will just like sometimes make up reports to make the person happy that's writing it. And it's like, that is just dangerous. This is not. This is an internal use of AI to maximize the documents that are already in there, correct?
Yep. Good question, Jay. So to highlight where you're going with this is we do get concerns and questions all the time about hallucinations. They can get attorneys into a lot of trouble. So the way Lois works within FileVine, and another reason why we're a little bit different than some of the competitors, is Lois only has access to data that you provided within the case file. It's as if there were an empty box. You put in your information within that box. Lois can only have access to that information within the box. It can't pull from other cases you've uploaded or even from the internet. So if you're wanting to do any sort of research, we recommend some other tools like Westlaw or LexisNexis to do your researching and then provide those citations, put them into FileVine for Lois to have access to them.
Fantastic.
So we'll jump into Ask Lois, and this is really a fun tool. I have a lot of fun with this with new clients because it surprises me every single day what it's capable of doing. So I'll share my screen to this tab. So we're back into FileVine within this case. And our chat box is right up here on the right with this little rainbow button. So we'll go ahead and pull this open. And again, you have to be within inside of a case to have access to this because obviously Lois needs to understand where to pull the information from. So if you're not within a case, it'll say, hey, go and point me to which direction or which case you want me to pull information from. So the limits of this tool are really your own creativity. I have use cases every single day that surprise me with what we can do. So I'll run through a couple of examples of what we've done in the past. And then if you have any questions we want to do on the fly, I'm happy to do that as well. So right here, I asked earlier today, what were the injuries sustained on this accident? Based on the incident that I found within the case, it can detail all the different injuries associated to that incident. It will include these hyperlinks here to go ahead and find out where this is sourced. This looks like it's coming from the Medcron that we provided it, which is helpful to referring to certain documents. And then scrolling down here as a, I'm not the attorney, so you guys watching this might have a better idea of what this means, but essentially I asked it to create a table comparing Jessica's cervical spine status before and after the collision, and then use those MRIs and post-collision MRI as sources to create a chart to compare the pre-incident, findings and the injuries compared to the after incident. And so this is what Lois kind of came up with. It actually clarifies that the context I referred to a 2023 MRI, and this is actually saying, hey, it's actually a 2022. So nice. If there is a 2023, you might want to upload that.
Wow.
Or sorry, I mixed myself up. So not a 2022, but a 2021 right here. Okay. And then just below that, we have this table it created. It obviously highlights the more prevalent spinal injury, which is the C4 to C5. It included pre-collision findings, the post-collision findings, and then obviously that change in pathology.
I think that's so important. We try to train the docs to do an initial exam and report and to get the 5 years of medical records so that they have a good view to when they're writing the report. So many doctors will not do this, but that's what I want them to do. Do interim reports and update exams and interim reports, and then do a final. So you have these progressive and comparative objective findings. Gosh, that's just really neat how this extrapolates that so quick and easy for the attorneys. Whew, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And as you get the hang of some of these prompts, you'll start to understand how to utilize this tool, what prompts you like the most, and how to draft your prompts is like the most important part. That's really the art behind it. And as you get the hang of it, you'll start to understand the power and the levels that you can take this tool. But yeah, essentially you can just draft these charts as you see fit to view data in however manner you'd like to see it, with all those source links right here, obviously attached to the documents.
Okay.
And then scrolling down here, it even suggests, would you like me to summarize the medical expert causations from this injury? Which I replied, yes. Obviously summarizes that, and we can share this out if we need to. Created another chart for us. And then we also have the ability to go ahead and download these. So we can download this as a PDF if we're trying to create some sort of data or chart to share out. It's pretty easy to do that within the system. And you can really ask any question you'd like. You can get pretty nitty gritty and detailed, or you can ask pretty simple things like, hey, when's the trial date for this client? Mm-hmm. So any questions with that, Jay, or any prompts you'd like me to run on it?
No, it's looking great. I am curious on how it's helping track from start of case to what they need through the case, to when they need doctor's notes, to when they're ready to schedule that trial date. How does that flow, that funnel go?
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on each case, right? And we can ask Lois as well. So if we wanted to say, hey, tell me about any upcoming deadlines for this case. It'll go through our documents and find out what deadlines are upcoming for us to prepare for those deadlines coming in the cases. As you know, like for attorneys, Jay, they are always preparing for upcoming deadlines. And that's one of the hardest things to track within a case is just all of your deadlines you have. And so obviously when you have a tool like this, you can easily extrapolate the deadlines upcoming within a case.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
fantastic.
so it does keep, yes, it is very cool. Like the idea and what we know and what we're comfortable with is case management, which is putting data in a way that's familiar to us that we can keep track of things and keep things organized. Well, AI is really blending the lines of what a case management system can do and what AI is capable of doing. So really the direction we're taking this is this might be a replacement for case management going forward and being able to quickly refer to data without actually having to put it into fields manually.
Well, it seems like this is so structured. I understand that this could be used in any law firm for any type of legal specialty. But of the softwares out there I've seen and the offices that I've worked with that have used just the generic, hey, we're a big firm with 40, 50 attorneys and we do a little of everything. Oh, and we do PI. Those other softwares just don't work well for PI. And I think this is fascinating because this does seem to work well with everything, but it's just so good at that personal injury niche.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Our CEO over here at FileVine is Ryan Anderson, as you might know. He was an attorney practicing PI attorney at Bighorn Law in Vegas. And so when we started initially, everything here at FileVine was directly, targeted toward PI attorneys and kind of the pains they go through. As we've developed AI, that's been our number one practice in mind is personal injury. However, if you're a practicing family law attorney or outside of personal injury, you can get utilization out of these tools. But those Medcron and extracting data from voluminous documents is most going to be beneficial for personal injury, medical malpractice, your workers' comp, that sort of thing. Last one I wanted to mention, and this is one of our newer tools as well. So we're currently viewing what's called Lois within the case, and that's being able to chat with AI within a certain amount of data only specific to that case. Now, what we've done that's very unique to FileVine is a global version of Lois, and global Lois is going to have access to all of your data across all of your cases. And it's really handy when it comes to reporting or finding details across all cases. But what's more important about global Lois is the agentic opportunity there and what she's able to do. So I'll go ahead and let me switch over to global Lois here. And this is essentially what it would look like. Global Lois will have access to all of your cases within the firm. And so I have a couple of prompts here I ran this morning. So if I scroll up, I asked it how many cases, within our demo, we're limited on the amount of cases we have, but I asked it how many cases have had activity or haven't had activity for 14 days. Lucky for us, we're all up to date in our cases for 14 days, so there's 0 here. I asked it about which which cases might not have activity for 7 days, and it was able to go through, find one case that we hadn't had activity. I asked her then to assign a task to Laura Shea to call a client by the end of this week. It found Laura Shea. However, it said, okay, we'll just need to know which case we want to apply it to. And then, let's see, I asked it to associate it to the case with no activity for 7 days. And so it found the case file there and then assigned the task. So if I go into the case file, I'll see that now Laura has a task that's going to show up on her task list to go ahead and call the client by the end of the week, which is tomorrow. Okay. So the levels you can take this are pretty crazy. And obviously the idea of it is to quickly get access to all of your data across the firm, whether that's looking at policy limits across all your cases or estimated settlement values, or actually seeing what settlement values you've taken in across the firm within a certain time period. That's really the power of this tool.
Okay, a lot of great features in this software that just help your office to run smoother. Helps. I mean, any software is going to be garbage in, garbage out, but it's nice when they're designed to, like we talk about in business finishing school and the other coaching that we recommend, simplicity, probability, leverage. If we can make it simple, then it's more probable, or we can predict more of the outcomes. So it's easier for us to delegate to people. So we have that simplicity, probability, leverage. We can leverage more, or in this case, maybe fewer people in the office to get the same work done in less hours, because we've leveraged AI, we've leveraged software that's designed specifically for your practice type. And it's just a win-win-win. So, hey, look, if you have any questions and want to reach out to Jeff, how do they get a hold of you, Jeff?
They can reach me if they want to email me directly at jeffreyrakes@filevine.com. That's probably the best place to reach me. Obviously, my contact information has been provided to Jay as well. We're happy to go through any sort of demo process as thorough as you might need, and give you an understanding of whether or not this might be a good fit for your firm. I think one of the bigger incentives of using FileVine is you guys can get started today with something like this. All you will need is your case documents. You don't need any sort of implementation, or you don't need to enter any data into any fields or do any sort of migration. It's simply just dragging and dropping your documents into the system. Once that's OCR'd, you'll have access to pretty much all those tools.
Wow, so migration from whatever software they are using to do this is super simple as well.
Super simple. Yep.
And then cost-wise, how does it work if they're paying for some other software and they're like, well, we want to try out FileVine? How does that work?
Yeah, with billing and AI softwares, there's all sorts of different options people have heard of. So there's subscription cost options. We don't do subscription, nor do we do by the page. A lot of people are paying by pages with those medical chronologies, which is actually pretty wild. And then the way that we have our billing set up here at FileVine is a per case cost. So essentially, based on what tools you would need to access or what tools you'd like to use within FileVine is how we do the billing. But it's set per case, and you'll have unlimited access to those tools for as long as the case stays active. So whether that's a year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you'll have unlimited access to those tools at one cost. And I think the reason why we do that is for the ability to pass that through in the event we wanted to do that, because it really is saving a lot of time and also increasing the settlement values, staying more organized and on top of your cases, and having some really powerful tools.
Man, what a brilliant business marketing model and functioning model besides the tools themselves. That's great. Well, hey, Jeff, thanks again for going over this with us today. And I hope that our members will look seriously at utilizing a software that helps their communication to flow better in their office, to their providers, that medical providers are working with, in gathering documentation, extrapolating from that to write better demand letters and just get better settlements. Simplicity, probability, leverage. I hope you guys utilize this and share this with your legal friends out there too.